Hey guys, and welcome back to the Spruce and Linen channel. I'm Janelle, and today is the third part of our three-part shape weaving series, and today we're going to talk about waves and organic shapes. So let's get started. Okay, so one thing I get asked about a lot is how to add waves, wavy shapes to your weavings. And of course, yet again, there's multiple different ways that you can do this. One way, so you guys know that I always like to start my weaving with a piece of cardboard at the bottom so that you have something nice and firm to beat down onto. So instead of doing a straight piece of cardboard, you could actually draw a wave and do it this way. So I'm going to quickly show you this method. So in this scenario, let's pretend that I've already woven in a few plain weave rows and done my fringe and all that good stuff, but for the purpose of this video and so that you can really see what I'm doing, I'm just going to leave the paper visible. This is one very easy way to add organic and wavy shapes to your weaving. The biggest thing when you're adding in a shape like this is that you need to pay extra attention to how much slack you're giving your weft, because doing it this way has a tendency to kind of want to mess with your tension a little bit. It's obviously more ideal to always be weaving perfectly horizontally. So for this method, you're just going to want to make sure that whatever you do, you're giving yourself a lot of slack on your weft. So I'll weave a few rows so you can kind of see what I mean. So when it's going down into this curve, it's really going to want to tighten up. So that's where you really want to make sure you have enough slack or everything's going to really start sucking in at the sides, which we definitely don't want. We're always trying to keep those sides nice and straight. A little bit of drawing in is normal, but for the most part, we want to try to keep it as straight as possible. So as you can see, this is just giving you automatically that wavy shape that you see in a lot of different weavings. And the nice part about doing it this way, and the reason I like this method, is if you also want to cut your fringe at the same kind of curvature as this, because this is going to make your fringe obviously hang all at different levels and you can really get that whole curvy look. Maybe we'll throw up a picture right here of the one I've done this way. So that is one method. The other methods are very similar to the other geometric shapes that we've talked about. So you can use a template. You can weave in a paper template and weave the background around that, or you can just kind of build it up. So I'm going to take this out. Now that you can kind of see how this just automatically creates waves, you can do sumac stitch and just kind of have this stripy, wavy feel all the way up. So I'm going to also show you the method of doing waves where you're actually building up from a straight bottom into a curve. So let's just... All right, so now we're going to start with a straight bottom and we're going to build up from here. So again, there's lots of different ways you can do this. You can draw yourself a template. If that works better for you, by all means, that might be a good way to start learning. You could draw out your whole weaving and tape it behind and just follow those lines. One way to build up that curve is with a sumac stitch. So because this weaving is so small, I'm just going to split apart my wool into quarters instead of only in halves. And you can start to build up. Actually, let's do a few rows of plain weave just so we have a base here. Okay, so I have a couple of rows of plain weave in there, and now we're going to start weaving up into a curve. So all I'm going to do, again, very similar to the other shapes, it's just that these ones are organic, so you can really make them however you want. And I mean, you do you. It's always okay to unweave and to weave and unweave over and over again until you get what you want. But I want to just start kind of creating a similar shape that we had with the paper, but this time I'm just doing it with actual weaving. So again, I'm just using plain weave. You can use other stitches for this, but just so that you get a gist of the actual shape, we're going to do it this way. So I'm gonna skip a few warp strings to go around, and I'm just gonna let this kind of gradually move upwards. So you can see here on this row, I went around this string. This row, I went around this one. So I skipped 2 in the middle, and I'm just kind of, I'm not gonna necessarily do that on every row. I'm just kind of going up gradually and unevenly, which will give you that more organic look. Okay, so now we've kind of got this bit of a angling down situation. And we're gonna go to the other side and kind of build that up as well. Okay, so now I've got, again, it's not perfectly even. That's kind of the point, I guess, of organic shapes. Now, let's go in with some black yarn and just go around these so we can really see that wavy shape that we've created now. This is definitely one of those things where having a couple of different tapestry needles makes it a little bit more efficient. So again, same as with the paper, you're going to want to make sure you leave yourself a good amount of slack in these curves here so that you're not pulling in your strings too much. You can see I'm just kind of like moving and shaping this, trying to like push it down to where I think it looks good. And again, you can start building up more waves over here, so maybe we'll do that now if you want to kind of start coming the other way. And I hope you can kind of get the gist that I'm kind of just winging this, and that's, you know, very normal, I would say. The way that I use organic shapes and create them is like you can really just kind of free form, play around until it looks how you want it to look. So now if you go back with the black, again, just to kind of emphasize the shape so that you can see what I've done. So you can see how I'm just kind of building upon the previous shape for this strategy. So now let's say, you know, let's back up this black yarn a little bit. And maybe we want to create a shape kind of out in the middle within this curve. So another way to create shapes is with roving, and I like doing this with a sumac stitch. So I'm gonna just jump right in there and do sumac stitch out in the middle here. This is a very thin piece of sumac, or roving, but I'm also working on a pretty small weaving, and I'm just kind of following that curve up. Let's say I kind of want to make a teardrop shape. So I'm going to go all the way up here. Then I'm going to start coming back down the other way. When I do sumac stitch, I kind of like, and I usually use a thicker chunk of merino, but I like to go around 2 and skip 2. If you want to learn more about sumac stitch, we have quite a few videos that I use it in. So now I've got over to this part, I'm going to start going back this direction again. So now we've kind of got this shape out in the middle, and I'm going to go around this with the black again just to kind of outline it and smooth it all out. So you can see how that created a nice kind of teardrop or leaf shape, whatever you want to call it. So as you can see, once you kind of have a base of a curvy shape or organic shape, you can really easily build on that and just kind of build your shapes around that. And that's generally what I like to do. It's all a whole lot of winging it. So maybe in this case, I want to start moving this shape over this direction. And again, I'm just using plain weave. You can use all kinds of different stitches to do this. And I'm just building this shape again. And I want it to kind of start coming over this way. So I'm just totally winging it, and that's the beauty of organic shapes. You can kind of do them however you like to do them. And I think this is why organic shapes can be a little tricky, because they really are however you'd like them to be. And again, if you want to, create yourself a template for the first few times you do it, just so that you can have something that's well designed before you even start, if that feels easier. You do you. You can use any of these methods and it's still going to turn out really beautifully. You know, and another strategy you can use is, once you have some plain weave in there, say I want like a shape like that, I could just leave this in here and fill in this shape, kind of like we did with this circle, where you're weaving around it first and then weaving it in, only this time we just have one strand that's sort of dictating the shape. But that, you can see how this kind of helps you see what it would look like, and then you could go in and fill that in, or you can create it all on your own. As usual, tons of different ways that you can do the same thing. I love that about tapestry, and that you can just really get super creative with it. Okay, so I thought I would show you one more strategy to kind of start off with that wavy look to your weaving, and that is with roving right at the start. And I like to go again over 2 and skip 2 with my roving. I like to leave it nice and poofy at this end, if I can get it to stay nicely. And as I come further to the point I kind of want to turn around, I'm going to start pulling it a little bit tighter, so it starts creating like a little bit of a tapered look. Now this is a very narrow weaving I have on here, but the same effect is true. You would just go longer and more layers if you were doing a bigger weaving. So now I'm going to turn around. We want to leave that tapered there. And you can see how this is already creating that nice curve that you see in a lot of weavings. So we can stop there. You could do another layer, but let's stop there. And we're going to go back in with another color. We'll jump to the white yarn here. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some more roving. All right, so I'm gonna just do the same thing on the other side now. And let's say maybe you want that built up a little bit more. We'll do a 3rd row. All right, so you can really see how building up with this roving is going to give you that kind of wavy look, and that's a strategy I really like using to start that sort of wavy looking weaving. Alright guys, so that wraps up our 3-part shape weaving series. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications when I post new videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.